So you would like to buy a new finder scope for your telescope, but still you're unsure which one is the best for you, or you're just interested in which finder scopes are there. Then this video is right for you, because in this video I would like to introduce 3 different finder scopes to you, and I would like to give you advantages and disadvantages of each of these finder scopes. All that and everything right after the intro. First of all, this video is not sponsored. I'm not being paid for it. All products shown in this video were purchased by myself. But now I would like to start with the video. So first of all, what is a finder scope in general? So a finder scope helps you to find objects in the night sky. So after aligning your finder scope with your telescope, it's very easy for you to find objects in the night sky, because when you look through that finder scope and you see the planet Mars, for example, then this planet will be visible in your main telescope as well, if it's aligned. So in general, these finder scopes help you to find those deep sky objects or planets in the night sky. So a very helpful thing that you need when using a telescope, for example. But now I would like to introduce these 3 types of finder scopes. So first of all, I would like to start with the optical finder scopes. This one, for example. So this is an optical finder scope. So when moving this piece here in front, you can see there are built in classes. So you have one lens here and one in the back right here, which means that there are classes built inside. So these ones usually have magnification. So in this case we have 6 times of magnification and diameter of 30 millimeters. So these finder scopes have both advantages and disadvantages. So the very first disadvantage is definitely that your field of view is limited. So you have a 6 times magnification, which means that you will get a very small field of view. So that's not that great for finding those objects, because your field of view is not that big, and it makes finding those objects definitely more difficult. But this magnification definitely has advantages too, because when observing those objects in night sky, these objects are not all visible to the naked eye. But sometimes we would like to observe those objects that are not visible to the naked eye, and those big telescopes can reveal these objects, and therefore these finder scopes are helpful definitely, because with this finder scope we can see objects that we cannot see with our naked eye. So when looking for objects that are very, very dark, such as the Triangulum galaxy, for example, so it's quite bright object but not that bright, and you're looking through that finder scope, you will see the Triangulum galaxy. So these finder scopes with big diameter will help you to find objects that are not visible to the naked eye, which is definitely helpful when looking for objects, because not all objects in the night sky are visible to your naked eye. So these finder scopes have definitely both advantages and disadvantages. Another disadvantage is that those optical finder scopes are quite expensive compared to other finder scopes. So those beginner optical finder scopes will be in the range of around 50 euros, so something like that. So a bit more expensive compared to other ones, but still not that expensive. So it's a very helpful piece for your telescope to improve your observing experience. On the other side, there are those finder scopes. So these finder scopes are using a laser, for example. At first, I would like to introduce this one. So as already mentioned, these 2 finder scopes use a laser, an LED. So this one is a telerad finder scope. So first of all, this is a finder scope that I definitely recommend, and I have already created a video about that kind of finder scope. I will link this finder scope in the end of this video, and you can click on the video right here as well. So as I already mentioned, this finder scope has a built-in LED. So I would like to introduce this finder scope first to you. So you can remove that piece here, and then you can look into the inside of this finder scope. So here in the back you can see the battery pack. There we have the LED light and this LED. And this LED just shines on that mirror here in the back. You can see that mirror here in the back, and then the light is reflected here on top through the glasses, and then in the end you will see circles on that glass. So in this case we do not have magnification, which might be an advantage definitely, because your field of view is very big, which will make it easier for you to find objects, because when looking through a finder scope you will see a big field of view, and that allows you to start hopping, and this definitely allows you to find your objects even faster, because your field of view is very big. But that is a disadvantage as well, because with this finder scope you will only find those objects that are visible to your naked eye, because you do not have any kind of magnification, and that's definitely a disadvantage. But with this finder scope you can do star hopping, so when looking where the deep sky object is, you can just look for the stars through a finder scope, and then you can go to that stars, and then you will find these deep sky objects in the end as well. But you will not see that very, very dark objects through a Finderscope. Another aspect I really like about that one is that you can adjust the brightness. So a few other Finderscopes have this advantage that the laser dot is very bright, and that's okay for observing or for looking for planets because those are bright. But when looking for darker objects such as galaxies or nebulae, this laser dot is definitely too bright. But in this case, we can adjust the brightness depending on the objects. So when looking for planets, for example, we can increase the brightness, but when looking for deep sky objects, we can use the lowest brightness, which is definitely helpful for finding those very dark objects in night sky. So in general, I'll definitely recommend that one. So this one costs around 50 euros. So right now, I've bought that for 6 euros 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm still using that one because I'm definitely amazed by this one. So I definitely recommend that one because it's very easy to use, and here in the back you have those pieces here that allow you to align your telescope with this Finderscope. So this is definitely Finderscope I definitely recommend. The last Finderscope I would like to introduce is this one. This is a laser dot Finderscope. So it's once again a laser Finderscope, but in this case we have built-in LED right here in the back, and this one is laser, and this just puts a laser dot here in the front of these glasses. So this type of Finderscope is a Finderscope that comes with a lot of telescopes. But in general, I do not recommend these ones because that is okay for looking for planets because those objects are bright. But when looking for smaller objects or objects that are not that bright, such as the Andromeda Galaxy, for example, or the Orion Nebula, all of those objects, those Finderscopes will not be that helpful because when turning this Finderscope on with the switch here, this LED here in the back, so it's laser, just puts a dot here in the front. But this dot is that bright that it's simply too bright, so we'll not see any objects through that one. So I definitely do not recommend these Finderscopes. So if your telescope has a Finderscope like this one and you're happy with that, it's okay. But I would rather go for the Telluride Finderscope because that will definitely help you to find those objects. It definitely makes finding those objects so much easier. And now to my final opinion. So when planning to buy a Finderscope for astronomy and you would like to look for deep sky objects and planets and all of that things, I would definitely recommend this one because it's definitely easy to use. You will find a lot of objects. In the beginning I used that one, and it was so hard for me to find the Andromeda Galaxy, so it took me quite long, and after attaching that Finderscope, within 2 minutes I finally centered the Andromeda Galaxy in my field of view of the telescope. So I definitely think that this one makes observing and finding these objects so much easier. So I definitely recommend that one. But if you're planning to look for objects that you are not able to see with your naked eye, I would rather go for a Finderscope like that one, because this one allows you to see objects that you will not see with your naked eye. So with this Finderscope you can as well find those objects that are not visible to your naked eye. But in this case you need to use a technique called star hopping, which means that you look for stars that are around that object, for example in stellarium, and then you look for these stars with that Finderscope, and then you try to move your telescope to that region so that the stars are centered in your field of view, and then when looking through your main telescope you will see the nebula. So these are the 3 Finderscopes I personally use for finding those objects in the night sky. In summary, I definitely recommend this one and this one. So in my opinion, the best thing is to use this Finderscope and this one in combination. So both Finderscopes attached to your telescope, because then it will be really easy to you to find all objects, so nearly all of those brighter objects in the night sky. So if you have any more questions on one of these 3 Finderscopes, definitely feel free to ask me. So if that guide was helpful to you, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and until next time. Clear skies, Felix.